What if everything you thought and believed about successful buying, selling, and financing your home was wrong? Welcome to HomeWise with Miget. This is where you can count on straightforward, objective advice on the right way to make the most out of every dollar you put into your home. Whether it's buying, selling, or financing, even maintaining and growing its value along the way. Coming to you from the News Talk STL studios at Union Station in St. Louis.
Another awesome show we have prepared for you. HomeWise Radio with Michael Miget and Paul Cook. We are so happy that you're giving us a little bit of your time today. And man, are we ready with some important questions. Michael Miget, how are you?
I'm good, Paul. How are you?
Excellent. Excellent, man. I've been looking over some of the things you've prepared for today, and I need answers. I need answers, darn it. It's going to be fun. We're going to we've talked about the questions and how important questions are in this.
That's right.
This process. And I really love how you've covered that, and you can see it in all of the past, certainly more recently, the episodes of HomeWise Radio, HomeWiseRadio.com. This is episode 14, and the second part of the question we've been asking is, how much money do I need to buy a house? The second part of that is, how much is the monthly payment? And we're going to go over that today.
Yep. So you had mentioned questions. We're all about strategy on this show in my business, the way that I approach, the way I approach things. So in order to apply a strategy, you feed that with information. And the only way to get that information is to ask questions. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's why we start there. And generally speaking, that means me asking you questions or me asking the client questions. So today I thought we might, not an official role play or anything, but we could set this up to where you're kind of asking me questions about this. So you just pretend like put on your client hat.
Okay.
Like pretend like you're buying or refinancing, like things that you would. Right, and I see you showed up with the hat on.
Yes,
today,
see, that's
perfect,
because
very appropriate.
This is client hat,
right? Total accident too, by the way.
Don't share our secret.
So it begins with questions. So we have been talking about what questions to ask, which ones to ask at the very beginning of the process, the ones to ask when we're starting to get into the actual construction of the loan financing, the package, the pre-approval. Mm-hmm. People show up and are like, I need a pre-approval. I want to get pre-approved. And generally speaking, then they start asking about things like rates and monthly payments. Mm-hmm. And some will start with a rate and then go to monthly payment. Other people will start with monthly payment and then go to rate. Just kind of depends on the person and what they've where they're at mentally inside their own inside their own process. Mm-hmm. But this is generally where the conversation picks up when somebody shows up on my turf. So that's if they show up and they're asking questions, they tell me what they need. This is generally where they start.
It's interesting, not what they should be asking, but do you know why those two things are so important? What forms, if you're into more of the rate or if you're into more of the monthly payment, one or the other?
It stems from the fact that people generally don't know what questions to ask.
Yes.
But it's important and it's a big deal. So they feel like they should be asking questions. Because after all, if they're not asking questions, if they're not, like they feel like they should, and some will use the term shopping. And I don't like that term.
Yeah.
Because when I think shopping, I think department store. You're going to buy something off of a shelf. When you're shopping for financial advice, you don't go shopping financial advisors the way that you might shop for, a box of cereal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even a car. Those are things that you would generally think of that you're shopping for. I'm shopping for a mortgage. They're all the same. I'm just kind of checking them out.
Yeah.
I'm dipping my toe in the water or whatever. And it's okay. I get it. And most of the time that's just a terminology thing. Okay?
And is that because they don't have the full picture? Is that why you don't shop a financial advisor? You don't have the full picture to know like you said, the box of cereal, pretty obvious what you need, but it's just not the same type of thing that it comes down to just a few numbers.
Yeah, well, right. And, that it's like if you go shop for a mortgage by rate.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of like shopping a financial advisor by rate of return. If you show up and your questions all sort of surround around what kind of rate of return can you get me? Mm-hmm. I'm just interested in rate of return.
Yeah.
I made a list of 10 advisors. You're my fourth call, and I'm just trying to figure out a rate. Now, people generally don't do that, okay? Because in their mind, they understand that there's more to it. In fact, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, I'm telling you what.
And, because they understand that risk piece that goes in there. And so that, the relationship between rate of return that you're trying to achieve and the amount of risk that you're willing to take. And, so that takes you down this path that many financial advisors will. That's their questioning process, okay? Mm-hmm. Well, a mortgage is, this is financial advice, okay? Financial advice, this show is financial advice for homeowners. Okay? That's why I call it HomeWise, right? Home Smart just didn't quite have the same ring to it.
No, I don't like to say that.
And, smart is something that you get from reading a book. You can get through synthetic advice. My first couple of years in the business, I was smart, right? Because I knew how to do all this stuff. I caught on very quickly. Having an accounting background, I learned a lot of time value of money is what this comes down to. It does not mean that I was wise.
Yeah.
Right? Because wisdom is something that you get over time.
Through experience and other things.
Right?
Yeah, but wisdom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So your best case scenario when you're looking for somebody is somebody that is smart, understands, knows the concepts, how everything works together, but then also has the experience of having applied that smartness, if that's how we want to say it, applied that smartness to people's real life situations and seen how things turn out.
Yeah.
Right?
And evaluates that.
Because if there's one thing I know about life is that you can work something out on paper all day long, but that's not necessarily how it's going to play out in real life because there are many, many, many more variables that come into play than we could ever account for.
Yeah.
Right? So even going back to the financial advisor example, hey, what kind of rate of return can you get me? Well, most financial advisors, I don't know if they'll tell you this, but they would be able to go back and look at what their performance has been in certain strategic portfolio that they've built, right? And they could tell you what they've done in the past, and we're all familiar with that phrase, past performance is not an indicator of future performance.
Yes.
Or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. Because it doesn't work like that, right?
The variables. So if you have a wise strategy, maybe you can help against some of those variables still have a good return.
Well, right. And getting back to our original question, which you asked, which was why do people do that? They do that because they don't know the right questions to ask. So it's just, from my perspective, it's just a simple redirect, right?
Okay.
Now, we're not going to not answer the rate question, and I can certainly give you a ballpark of rates because really what they want is, see, if you're buying a house and you show up and you like, what's today's rate? It's irrelevant because you don't have a house yet. You don't have an accepted contract.
Okay.
We're not going to lock in your shopping, right?
Right here today.
Give you the air quotes for those that are watching us on the radio, because you can watch us now.
Yes, you can.
And you can get all of this at HomeWiseRadio.com.
Nice, man. You don't need me. You don't need me on Facebook. I mean, we've been on Rumble. We're on all these great platforms and YouTube.
Now. Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that is one. If I've learned anything over these last many shows, it's that there are so many variables and there are many more questions that to ask or to find answers to than just what's my rate, what's my payment. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
I didn't know that.
Right. And so what they're really trying to get to, because today's rate for you is that I can get you today is irrelevant because we're not going to lock in today.
Okay.
All right. What they're really trying to figure out is, are you going to be, I guess, somebody that is able to get me a competitive rate? Generally speaking, I know the market can go up and down. It can change because rates change every day. They can change hour to hour. A lot of things change, but are you an originator that generally has a rate that's higher than the rest of the people in the market? Or are you competitively priced? Okay. And that's really kind of the question that they're trying to get to. And maybe they don't even realize that. So that's part of a live conversation that I would have with somebody.
And people need to have a live conversation. I can go way off the reservation on this, but people's time is challenged. They think, I don't want to have that conversation. It's important to have that conversation. It's important to talk and get to know this. It's going to save you money.
And then
it might make you money.
Right. See, so go back to the one of the original kind of premises or tenets that I put out there, which is people are interested in the house. They're not interested in the loan. Right. So the mortgage is a necessary evil. This is not the fun part. It's kind of like going to the dentist. No offense against dentists, but there's nobody just itching like, hey, guess what? We get to go to the dentist today. I'm so happy, They don't say that about me either, right? They're not happy like, oh, let's go see the mortgage. Like, I can't wait to go shop for that mortgage, I mean, it can be.
It's not sexy, but man, it's important.
It's definitely not sexy, but so now let's connect those two ideas, all right? They don't know what to ask, all right, because they don't really a mortgage, it has a lot of moving parts, and then at the same time, there aren't a lot of moving parts that you can affect, right? They're sort of like static moving parts. We can change the term, how long you borrow the money for. We can change the rate, what you're paying per unit of time, or an interest rate is your interest per year, and then the amount that you're borrowing based on how much you're going to put down, and a few other things. But outside of that, there isn't much else we can change. And as you change those things, the payment changes predictably. So what they just don't really know what that. So it's a painful, like, okay, I'm going into a situation. I need to get this thing so I can get the other thing that I really want. I need to get a mortgage to get this house that I really want. I've done a mortgage before, so I get it, right? Or maybe I haven't done a mortgage before and I have no idea, so I have even more anxiety. But even if you don't have the anxiety, it's just not something that you do every day. You don't want to do it. I don't exactly know how to deal with this or get it, or what to ask. So, it's a painful process.
I need help.
Right?
I know I need help at least, and I want to know my monthly mortgage payment.
And, there was a time when, when we first call with a client, right, and they get on the phone, and I'm like, okay, well, what can I help you with? Yeah. Okay.
Here's what I can help you with.
Well, okay, so here's how this works, and then I would just go in and I would start off with, I can either just start asking you questions and sort of like,
which you're fine with, yes.
It might feel like a little bit of an interrogation. I apologize for that. But I make it as painless as possible. Or you can ask me some questions, or we can kind of do, and usually what most people do is like, well, why don't we just kind of like get into it, and then I'll stop you or I ask something along the way. Like that's perfect,
Okay.
But it starts and I know it's gonna wind up there.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to do is to kind of soften that initial beachhead. Like when they show up and I show up and we're like looking at each other, and I kind of feel like they're sizing me up and I'm kind of sizing them up. I mean, not in a bad way, but I'm just like, what's the best? Because I know that this is unnatural for them. I want them to feel better about it because they'll get more out of it if they're more open to me. If we have more rapport, if we hit it off better, like if we can have that meeting of the minds, they'll give me better information. They'll go into more depth on the answers they give me to the questions that I ask.
Yeah, more comfort to do that.
Yeah, I will feel like I have more ability to go deeper.
Yeah.
Right? So the dreaded one-word answer.
Yes.
Okay, I ask them like the one-word answer, and it's not like a yes or no, like, because you don't want to ask a closed-end question. You want to ask an open-ended question. But, like, hey, tell me what's going on. I want to buy a house. Like, oh, well, all right. I understand.
Yeah, that's why you're here with me right now.
Like, well, tell me some of the circumstances behind it. Or just whatever. Like, whatever, what is important. I can't, if I could read your mind, we just, like, bypass all of this. So, but I can't.
Oh,
right. So we've got to. So we've got to go. So
until you can read minds.
So we've got to go through it, right? So,
and then eventually you will come to a payment, right? I mean, and probably not that day, but there's a different strategy to apply. That's what's cool about you. You're getting a gauge for their approach on this and what they hope to get from it.
Sure. And my goal is to do 2, maybe 3 things on that initial call, which is 1, I want to answer all their questions. 2, I want to get the information that I need. I want them to feel comfortable, have confidence in me that I'm somebody that they can choose to share, to share this with. But more importantly is to ferret out what is that thing that's most important to them, because I want them to leave the call thinking like, hey, I got what I wanted, what I think I wanted to get when I showed up.
And this guy's thorough. He's not just boom, boom, boom.
Right. I'm just not, I will always caution against the order taker.
Yeah.
Right. Because it could be like that. And that's sort of, when I refer to the technician part of the job, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, I want to get pre-approved by a house. Okay, what's your name? Start going down. I get the 18 pieces of information. I'll pull a credit report. I'll stick it in my computer, and I'll produce out. Here it is. That's the technician portion of that. There are plenty of competent loan officers in the marketplace that could do that for you.
Just do that. Okay? Info in, info out.
And unfortunately, many times, in fact, perhaps a majority of the time, and I may even say most of the time, that's the extent of it, right? Mm-hmm. And if you do that, you get what everybody else is going to get.
Yeah.
Right. But if we slow down a little bit, and if we can allow a little bit of time to look at this from a few different angles, ask a few additional questions, we might find that there's another way to look at something that isn't, I don't want to say it's not mainstream or that it's outside the box, but there are a few additional dials that can be turned to do the tweaks. And so when we've talked about previously a little bit here and a little bit there, and we can stack those up and make small things that were small become big by stacking them. And even if we can't stack them, things that are done on the front end of a loan, that benefit will tend to compound through the entire amortization schedule, so it becomes big on the other side. And just very simply, you would be amazed at if you would see what something even as small as a $25, $50, $75 a month prepayment or additional on the payment does to the amount of interest that it would save over the whole term of the loan. And I say that because oftentimes
it's surprising what can happen.
Right. So something like
you would expect.
Right.
As a client.
If I came up and I gave you two different payments and they were $50 apart, so like say $1,200 and $1,250. Mm-hmm. You can't really. You hear $1,200. You can't. There's not a meaningful difference between those. People don't generally budget that tight.
Yeah.
Like to $1,200 I can do, $1,250 I can't. And I won't. It's just. It's not that, right. But if we can get it to where if I can be $50 better, then I can show you what I could do with that $50, what the other guy cannot.
Yeah.
And then it's like, holy cow, like blows me away what that little thing is. And so
that's amazing.
When they leave that call and they see, or we've had that discussion or they've seen that analysis, then that's
cool.
the magic.
That's
right?
delightful is what that is. And that is Michael Miget, HomeWiseRadio.com. You're listening to HomeWise Radio on multiple platforms and on News Talk STL. We'll be right back. More on this question and all that goes into. We're going to run it through a little bit. How much is the monthly payment? We'll be right back. HomeWise Radio. Welcome back to HomeWise Radio with Michael Miget. I'm Paul Cook. He is always thinking, and it's pretty amazing. And we've been talking a lot about how much is the monthly payment. You know, some of these things you have to consider, and you do consider as you're buying a home and dealing with, the loan and the originator, as you say. Tell us more about the things that go into this and what you're thinking concerning this subject.
Oh, it's fun stuff, Paul.
Yes.
Fun stuff. And by the way, you have some great questions. I love this we've got going here today.
Yeah,
so,
man. I'm always learning so much.
Little magic happening here.
Little magic.
All right. So the monthly mortgage payment, okay? Let's not gloss over some of the basics. So I know there are some people that might be listening that have never had a mortgage before, but I would bet you that there are even some people listening that have had a mortgage, have a mortgage now. Maybe they've had several mortgages that haven't really thought much about this. And not that you have to think much about it, but if you're going to take this asset, your home that you own, and you want to maximize what it's going to contribute to you over your financial life, meaning what it can, how it can help you later on. As we've said, my belief is that home is going to be crucial when it comes time for retirement for people my age. I'm in my 52. Getting ready to turn 53 this year. People in my age bracket and younger. Right?
Yeah.
And even people right now that are retiring, they are finding that, we've talked about reverse mortgages. I believe that you're going to see that become more prevalent. By the way, a reverse mortgage is not the only way to utilize the home in that capacity. But the main focus of what we're getting at here is we want to make sure that when you get to the point where you might need some of the financial value that you could have accumulated in your home, that you've got more than if you didn't do any of this, right? If you
absolutely.
If you just roll the dice and let it ride and hope for the best, I hope I got a good guy. I hope I got a good rate. I hope I got the right loan. Maybe the rate was the right way to shop for it. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I got a great rate, but the wrong loan. See, that's costly.
It's costly. And as they say in the South, that's your specialty.
Maybe I got the right loan, but I went to a guy who charged me too much for it.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think that you should take a cut rate deal either. There's something that's fair and reasonable, in the middle somewhere. But the first and foremost, you want to make sure that you've got the right plan, the right strategy, and all that. Okay. So let's go back to the beginning. What is the monthly mortgage payment? What is it? What is it for? Right?
Yeah.
So we've compared it to rent. We've compared it to rent before. It's the money that you pay for the use of the money that you borrowed to buy the home, right?
I love how you put that.
So think about that.
It really sums it up. The money you pay for the borrowing on your home and the home. Yeah.
So think about this. All right. You put up a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Okay. In the form of a down payment. We've talked about that before. Then the bank, and I'll just use the bank in a general sense.
Okay.
Okay. But the banker, your lender puts up the rest. Okay. Down payment is relatively small. What you're borrowing is relatively large percentage-wise of the purchase amount, of the purchase size. Even if you were to put down a huge down payment of, let's say, 50%, which not many people do. It's not common to see that, but it's possible. Some people are in a position to do that. And in that case, you think, holy cow, that's a huge down payment. You get a great loan with that. Not necessarily true, but it's still half. If you're thinking about it, it's still you're putting up half, the bank's putting up half. You're 50-50 partners in this
house,
lot, right? And so I just said something there. It's totally wrong.
Okay, you're not 50-50?
Well, no. Well, you're 50-50 in a sense that what is owed on it and what it's worth, but you're not partners in the property. Because see, if you were partners in the property, they would have a partial financial interest in that home, in the asset value or the equity of that home. Your lender does not have an interest in the equity of the home. The equity is all yours.
Yeah.
Right. See, so think about that. Right. We had a little bit of money, relatively speaking. We put it in the transaction. We got the rest from the bank. So if you think about it, they're taking more risk.
They are, because they're just getting what you pay to borrow the money. They're not getting the appreciation of the home like you are.
Correct. They are. Now, that's not to say that they're not getting nothing.
Yeah, right. It's not free.
My high school grammar teacher would kill me,
Not getting nothing.
Right, they're not getting nothing.
I understood you, which is scary to me.
Right.
And I didn't even go, okay, that's not good grammar.
Right. They are just not getting they're not your partner in the property. Okay, so they're not a partner in the property.
But I know why you said that. 50-50, you're thinking.
Right.
You're saying.
Right. They're taking a disproportionate piece of the risk for that. Because if you don't pay, they are not going to get their money from you. So now they do have a security interest in the home, so their loan is collateralized. That's what that term collateral means. So the home is collateral for that loan. But if there's not enough home value to cover what you have borrowed for whatever reason,
yes,
then they would have a loss.
2008.
And that's all of what happened there. Because there was a disproportionate amount of supply compared to the demand.
Yeah.
Because this all comes down to supply and demand pricing. It's economics 101. It's pretty straightforward if you break it down and think of it like that. But where prices went down because of oversupply, not enough demand, right? So prices come down, and lenders were upside down. And so people walked from those properties because there was nothing keeping them there. Now, there's more to that story. If we went down that tangent, we could spend a week's worth of shows talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The rabbit hole of 2008.
Right. But we'll just leave it to, understand that bank's not your partner in that property. The appreciation is all yours. Okay. But you didn't need all of the money to get that. And that's the magic of this whole deal,
which is pretty cool.
So, they're not your partner. You own the whole thing. You have 100% ownership of the property. So remember, it's a roof over your head. You got to live somewhere.
Okay. That should be on your
before.
Bumper sticker. That's a great point.
But as you mentioned already, you get all the appreciation. Or depreciate, lack of appreciation. Potentially. But over time, and so that's where the idea of hold time comes in. How long are we looking at buying, on a year-to-year basis?
How long are you going to live here?
Month to month, right.
A lot of those questions you ask.
Right. How long are you going to have, like all of that.
Or plan to live there.
Right, exactly. See, you're learning.
I am, man. I'm telling you what.
I
finally feel like I'm getting it a little.
Like, you actually are paying attention and helping participate in that. It really makes this more enjoyable. And I think listeners like it too.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
I agree.
So it helps them.
As a longtime radio fan,
it helps them get it, right?
I think it helps that I don't know a lot, that I'm not a specialist either, but I am listening.
Well, there's safety in numbers.
Yes.
So you're paying interest to the bank for the use of the money. You're renting the money, right? So the question is, you want to rent the money, you want to rent the house? You're going to rent something somewhere along the line. You're going to pay because you have to live somewhere. It's not free.
Yeah.
Somebody's paying.
You're not paying outright. You're going to rent the money or you're going to rent the house.
Right.
Hopefully you're renting the money because you have a chance to appreciate me saying the same thing
So if you rent the
again.
money and you buy an asset to offset the liability or the debt that was created to acquire that asset, and you have a reasonable expectation that over time that's going to maintain its value or grow its value over time, it's how you make money.
Yeah.
On that. Right?
If you're wise. HomeWise.
So
that's Michael Miget,
right.
by the way. HomeWiseRadio.com.
So when you look at the way these numbers work out, okay, especially in the context of a fixed rate loan, because remember, if it's a fixed rate loan, as time goes on, that payment, mortgage payment, is going to stay the same. We're going to get into that here in a minute.
Okay.
That's why Warren Buffett loves this as an investment, because over time that fixed rate is going to stay the same, but inflation is going to erode the value of your money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have money that's becoming devalued over time, using it to buy or pay for something, right? It's less, it's worth less.
Worth less, but the rate isn't changing on you.
All right. Well, it's worth less over time because it's not changing on you.
Oh.
So it's not going up. So in other words, the person that owns that loan is effectively getting less and less money from you year over year. Okay. Now, there's another caveat to that works in your favor that we're going to get into here in just a minute. So let's jump ahead a little bit to how is it calculated?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So
this is what I
alluded to earlier. It's a function of the amount that you borrow.
Yeah.
All right. The interest rate on the loan, which is a cost of money over a unit of time, in this case, per year.
Yeah.
Is how rates would normally be told to you. And then there's a term to pay it back. You put all those together and you can come up with the monthly mortgage payment. All right. Now, if you're buying, and that's what we're talking about here, in addition to that payment, you're also going to have the additional piece of that, which is the escrow payment.
Yeah.
Right? So,
okay. That's a
because
component.
You have real estate taxes and the homeowner's insurance that if you choose to, you don't have to, but if you choose to make it a part of your payment, that would be in there also. But understand that that's not a part of the mortgage payment itself. That's not what you're paying for the use of the money. That's what you're paying to own the home. So even if the person that won the lottery paid cash, has no mortgage, so I have no mortgage payment.
Yeah.
Well, they still sort of have a mortgage payment if you think of it this way, because they're still going to have homeowner's insurance that they have to pay.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be in the form of a mortgage company collecting it month
there's
by
a monthly
month to pay it. And you're still going to have to pay the real estate taxes. So you still have that component there. And irregardless, loan, no loan, good loan, bad loan, high loan, low loan, no, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's always going to be the same. So.
Okay, that's really good equation right there of what goes into it. Wow. Man, how do we affect it? Should I ask that in the next segment? How we affect the payment, or did you have more on that? I mean,
we can break here.
Yeah. It's because, this is a shorter segment. We've got some very important stuff to talk about. I see the word snowball. I see some cool things coming up here. Really fascinating. You're talking, you're listening. We're talking, right? Right. We're not just sitting here listening on the radio. That would be kind of weird.
I have
right?
a massive nugget to share in the next one that people are absolutely going to love.
Okay.
And it will translate audio on the radio.
Okay, it will actually be audible, and you don't need me anymore. That was a great tease, Michael Miget. HomeWise Radio, HomeWiseRadio.com. I might be here. You're going to get the nugget either way coming up. Welcome back to HomeWise Radio with Michael Miget. I'm Paul Cook. Michael was talking about a nugget coming up that I don't want to oversell, but he said the word nugget, so it made me think about, for years and years on a music radio station, I did the hot buttered Hollywood Nugget. And I kind of got to be known for it, for the Hollywood Nugget. So when you said nugget, I went, bing.
Well, maybe this is more of a boulder.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's bigger. It's bigger than that.
I love it. Okay,
So,
you go.
In order for that to make sense, we got to cover a little ground first.
Okay.
So, we've been talking about payments and what goes into calculating them and that. And you don't need me to calculate a payment for you here on the radio. You can go online, do mortgage calculators. I can't do it in my head anyway. All right. So, but how does it work? So payments break down into principal and interest. All right, so now we're just going to talk about the mortgage payment. Remember the principal and the interest portion, not the escrow portion, because that's not dependent on the loan.
Okay.
Okay, so you have to pay that whether you have a loan or not.
Good to repeat that, though.
All right. Mm-hmm. So each payment is principal and interest, breaks down into a portion of it is interest, a portion of it is principal. So earlier when I said that the monthly mortgage payment is the rent or the cost of using the money, well, really the cost is the interest portion of that mortgage payment. It's not the whole mortgage payment, even if we're just talking about the principal and interest portion, because the principal is your money that's going back to pay down the loan.
Okay.
Right? So the idea is that a loan amortizes over time as you make monthly payments. You're going to eventually get to the end of that. So a 15-year loan, after 15 years, it's got to be paid off. 30-year loan, paid off after 30 years.
What you agreed to pay.
Right. You need some pay down built into that, so that when you get to that last payment, there's no loan left, right? So that essentially that last payment is virtually all principal, itty-bitty tiny piece of interest, right?
What about a little derail? What I noticed that changes over time, right?
Yep.
So you're not paying down much principal at the beginning, then it changes.
Right. It starts off slow, and then it picks up steam as time goes on.
Because of risk for the loan, for the...
No, this is just purely math.
Okay.
Mathematical. Okay. But the way that interest is calculated on a loan, I mean, never mind the complicated, like I need a mortgage calculator to figure it out. Okay. It's actually very simple, because a mortgage is simple interest. It's not compound interest like people think.
Okay.
It's just compound. They think it's compound because it's a big, huge number. Right. Well, it's a big, huge number because you borrowed a big, huge amount. Yeah. Remember, the bank's giving you the lion's share of what you're buying. Houses are expensive. Even cheap houses are expensive.
Thousands,
they're not.
many.
Yes. Hundreds of thousands of
scary numbers
of dollars. We're just dealing with big numbers here. All right. So, what happens is the interest rate gets applied to the outstanding balance of the loan. All right. And periodically, this occurs on a monthly basis, right? So it's your interest rate divided by 12 times the remaining balance on the loan. Is the amount of interest that's due for that period. Now, mortgage payment. What did we say about the mortgage payment? The mortgage payment on a fixed rate loan stays the same. So if your mortgage payment is $1,000 a month, it's $1,000 a month on the first payment. It's $1,000 a month on the last payment.
Glorious.
It stays the same. All right.
Fixed.
But now think about what I just said was loan balance times the interest rate divided by 12 equals an amount of interest due for that period. You take that amount of interest, subtract it from the payment amount. So in this example, I was using $1,000. I don't know what the interest came up to. Let's say it came up to $800. Right. You owe $800 of interest, so $800 of interest is going to go, or $800 is going to go towards interest for that payment of $1,000. The remaining $200 is principal reduction. So now next month, the balance that you're paying interest on is $200 less than it was the month before. So it's a smaller number.
It's the
same interest
borrowing
rate,
less.
Same interest rate. Same payment.
Or what you owe is less. Okay.
The amount of interest that you owe is less. The payment that you owe is
going
the
down.
same. No, the payment is staying the same. Okay, it's a level payment, it stays
That's
the same.
right. Fixed that.
But the amount of interest goes down. So let's say the next month, and I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, but the next month the interest might only be $790. Right, so it was $800 in the first month that in our hypothetical example here. The second month it was $790. It went down. Why? Because a portion of that payment is principal. So the amount that we're assessing interest on is going down. Right.
Wow.
Simple interest periodically on a declining balance. So that means that as time goes on, you're paying less and less interest on the loan.
And your
the rate is fixed. The payment has stayed the same. The rate has stayed the same. But the amount of interest that you're paying is going down because you're paying the loan back. That's called amortization. That's amortization. It's the simplest way to think about it. And I think most people, and we talked about all that without actually doing any math because I made the numbers up. But I've seen enough of them to know about what they might, the relationship between the numbers.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So as time goes on, so when you close a loan, somewhere in that mound of papers, they're going to look like, the yellow pages, if you can remember what that is.
Bring an extra pen.
Well, you'll need a pack of pens.
Yes.
The yellow pages would pale in comparison, right?
Yes.
So stack of paper, somewhere in there's going to be a thing called an amortization schedule. For some reason, these lenders think that you need to have that.
You need to see that.
You need to see it, right? Here's your amortization schedule, like the 40 pages, like in 2-point invisible type of each month.
Each month.
Yeah, what that
That's
is,
right.
right?
Yep. Throughout the whole thing.
Yep.
Just keeps going.
Yep. But that, and most people are like, oh, I don't want to see that. That's making me feel bad.
Oh.
Right? So it doesn't have to make you feel bad.
Yeah.
Now, let me show you a little trick. So here's that nugget I was talking about.
Okay, the nugget.
All right. Take your amortization schedule. Let's just take the first payment, for example. So let's go back to our example right here where we were looking at, let's say it was a $1,000 payment, and the first payment due, the interest for that period, that first monthly period was $800. So you had a $200 principal reduction. All right. Then the next month, it was going to be $790 in interest. So your principal reduction would be what? Come on, you can do it.
Your principal reduction is $210.
Exactly.
Dollars.
Perfect.
This is a big deal for me.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's exactly right. Now, so the payment stays the same.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
$1,000.
Right. So let's say in that first month, so there's a reason why I did this way. All right. Let's say in that first month, you're like, you know what? I want to knock this loan out like in a record time.
Yeah.
So, and people always say, well, what happens if I pay something down? Like, how do I know how much I'm going to save if I pay it down on my loan?
Yeah.
Like, well, you could go use HomeBot because HomeBot has that built in there.
HomeWiseRadio.com.
You can get that at HomeWiseRadio.com.
Yes, which is amazing.
But search that out. It's an amazing tool. It has a lot of things in it that can help you save money. All right. But
free.
Here's an easy, quick, and dirty way to see what that prepayment would save you.
Yeah.
All right. When you make that first payment, for the next, if you look at the next month, right? So I said that the principal reduction was going to be $210.
Yeah.
If you send in an additional $210 payment in that first month, you can skip the interest that's owed in period number 2. Okay.
Really?
I'll let that sink in for a second.
And what is period number 2?
Well, period number 2 was
second part.
I'm sorry, the second month.
Okay.
Right. So, we're in January of 2023. Right. So let's say you had a payment due on January 1st. Your next payment is due on February 1st. Third payment is due March 1st. All right. The first payment you made, $1,000, $800 of interest, $200 went to principal, right? But along with that payment, you sent in an extra $210. Okay. If you do that, you're going to wipe out $790 of interest. How do I know that? Because I can look at the next payment on the schedule and see what that principal reduction was going to be.
Yeah.
So, and I did this purposely, but I chose.
That's pretty fascinating.
I chose the prepayment to be equal to what the principal prepayment was going to be on that second upcoming payment.
Okay.
Right?
I got you.
So now when I get to when I get to February.
Yeah.
Because I still owe a payment.
In February.
I still owe a payment. Right. I'm not skipping. This isn't skip a payment.
Yeah.
This is principal prepayment. Okay.
Okay.
So, but as far as the amortization schedule is concerned, when I paid that $210 in January that I wasn't going to get until February, so I accelerated it a little bit.
Yeah, you went ahead.
I essentially knocked my loan down I knocked a month off my loan. So if it was a 30-year loan and there were going to be 360 payments,
yeah,
there's now only going to be 359.
Oh my god!
Because I knocked one out.
Wow. That is a heck of a nugget.
I mean, is that not cool?
The amortization.
So now think about that.
Doesn't have to be such a.
So if I went to somebody, Paul, hey, you know what? If you give me $210 today, you'll get a benefit of $790.
Michael.
Does that sound like a good deal?
Yes. Yeah. You just have to be a little proactive with it, don't you?
Well, how does that work? I'm like, when do I get it?
Yeah.
Well, it's what I just said. That's going to be the benefit from it. So,
that's unbelievable.
when I'm thinking about that, and then what it does is it really opens you up. If I wanted to do some mathematical gymnastics here,
yeah,
I could make you believe that you just made 400% on your money.
Interesting.
That's not actually true.
Okay.
The $790 that you save is interest that you won't pay over the term of the loan. Okay. And if you impute that out over the next 359 payments, it will equate, if you're going to bring that back to discount it back to present value.
Yeah.
The return on that $210 prepayment is going to equal the interest rate on the loan if you've done your math right. Okay. So that's where it comes from. I'm saying if you prepay your loan, you're getting a return equal to the interest rate that you're being charged on the loan, because when you prepay the loan, it's interest that you don't owe anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a financial benefit to you.
I can't believe I'm tracking you on this. This is unbelievable. Why don't people do this more often?
Because nobody shows up. Hello, hey, do this, make that prepayment.
You don't know what you don't know.
Hey, here, come here, let me.
Shows up at their house, says, hey.
Right, nobody shows up asking you to do it, prodding you to do it, dare I say, forcing you to do it, because you don't have to do it.
Right.
You could do it once, never do it again.
Yeah.
You're not setting a precedent or changing the terms of your loan at all.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not doing anything that's going to hurt you. It's just, that is a one-way transaction.
Yeah.
So once you put in, you don't get to pull it back out.
Right.
Like if you decide you want, need it later on or whatever. But
right. But you're paying on
once
that
you
price to borrow.
Once you put that in, that's just a tiny little thing.
Man.
Right. A very tiny amount of money. So, but it can be very beneficial.
You did the nugget,
It's a
sir.
huge benefit.
You did.
Is it more of a nugget or a boulder?
Sorry. You did a bunch of nuggets into a boulder,
Okay.
but to me, a nugget is a boulder. That's what I'm saying. How do we know to do this? Do we get a hold of you? I mean, I of course want your contact information, but just to know that that's even something that you've done for people, that's a really cool thing.
Right. So
Reminded them to do.
So you could do one of three things.
Yeah.
All right. You could go to HomeWiseRadio.com and get HomeBot. Because remember, I told you HomeBot has this built into it.
Yeah. Love it.
HomeBot, when you sign up, it's free. Okay, you put your name, you put your address in, it finds your house, tells you what your house is worth. It goes out, it looks at the public records also, grabs your loan, looks at the date on the loan, figures out where you would be in the amortization schedule. There's a calculator built into it, where you could say, if I paid X number of dollars extra on my loan per month, my loan would pay off this much sooner. I'd save this amount of interest.
Incredible service.
So
Incredible.
it's just
for free.
It's just informational, like that. Yeah. So you could do that. Okay. Or you can go to GoShelter.com and you can find me there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ta-da.
You get message, email, stuff like that. Or you can just call me 314-275-0314. Tell me you're a listener of the show. Love to hear from listeners of the show.
Yes.
And even the watchers of the show.
You're a VIP, baby. That's great.
Yeah, just call me, text me, whatever. And I mean, even just want to see what's going on. Do I have a good loan? Just whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Check in.
But especially if you're buying, if you think you're going to buy, if you're selling, if you need help. I know a lot of great real estate agents also. Many of them are guests on the show. They're here for a reason.
Yeah.
And I was going to say one more thing. And see, this is what happens to me.
That's okay. I was going to say you made it through this past week's snow just fine as well.
Yeah.
Made it right on through. We can edit the end here. What else were you thinking about that you wanted to say? And I'll edit it. Three ways.
Oh, this is actually a big one.
Okay.
Right? So you can go to GoShelter.com. You can find me there. There's different places you can put information in. If you want to call me or text me direct, it's 314-275-0314. I'm happy to talk about your situation. If you want to know what your loan pay down would look like, we can run different analyses and things like that. I'm happy to talk about that with you. I just like to talk to people, especially listeners and now watchers of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this piece also. Is even if you're not buying or selling a home, it's very likely that you know somebody who is. And I like to say everybody knows somebody who's buying or selling a home.
Yeah, doing this process, and you could help them.
And so, hey, share with a friend.
Right. Listener could help friend.
Exactly.
By pointing them in your direction.
Exactly. You can do them a favor.
Yes, you could.
You do yourself a favor. You can do them a favor.
They will thank you.
Exactly.
Who are listening or watching right now. Well, thank you, Michael Miget. Great job today.
Paul.
Great job with that boulder. HomeWise Radio. Thanks so much for listening. Loan and loan information provided by Michael Miget, NMLS number 205402, and Shelter Mortgage, Inc., 691 Trade Center Boulevard, Chesterfield, Missouri, 63005, NMLS number 192609, a Missouri residential mortgage license.